make jokes over there.
All right, Dylan. Let's get it started. We're 2 minutes in, and we're not 2 minutes in because I'm going to cut the beginning of that because it was terrible. I guess I should have traded you arms because your arm is terrible.
Well, I'm going to have to deal with what I have. This is fine. The levels are good, right?
Yeah, the levels are good, I think. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really sure on any of this. And I think yours is picking up me, I think, a little bit, which is unfortunate. And I don't really know how to fix any of that. So we're just going to try it. And if this podcast goes terrible, then we'll just do another one.
That's fine. I think we should also, your podcast intro.
Yeah.
We should film it again.
I think so too.
With this light.
With this light?
I think it looks better.
With more light?
Yeah, I don't know. And also I think we could
do better. Yeah, shots. Me and Dylan filmed last night an intro to this podcast. And it's highly likely that you'll never see what we filmed last night because I think we were both a little exhausted and a little delusional.
Yeah, we had some good ideas, but now we could actually do them a little better. Last night we just kind of threw together. We were just like, oh, that'd be cool. Had you pulling down the table and then filming the camera about 40 times. Like, that'd be cool.
I mean, yeah, it's so unique, but we failed completely to capture a cool way of showing it, I think. Maybe not completely. I think it would work.
I think you could work with it, but I don't know. I just think it had a lot of ideas that we were just going off of just like, oh, that'd be kind of cool. And we didn't really think about it that much.
Yeah.
But
I mean, some of the ideas were really cool, but a lot of it, like we didn't think about movement in our shots at all.
I know that's what I was like, oh man, we just started filming and I was like, oh, I'll just film like a static shot of some object. And then,
that's kind of what you do with like documentary filmmaking, which is what you're doing.
Yeah. But I also, that guy, Mark Bone on YouTube, like has the best advice about documentary filmmaking. Cause that's what he is.
Right.
He just does that. And he has his own like camera setup, but he basically always looks for some type of movement if he can. Obviously, if you're like getting a moment where there's like, a scene where somebody's talking and there's something you have to capture, I mean, like movement may not help or it may like distract the people that you're trying to get the scene from. But a lot of times if you're trying to just get B-roll, like movement is actually really big because it can make a shot a lot more interesting. Like, especially even in this room, like just us sitting here like this versus like something sliding, like it gives more.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Like, movement.
Yeah, it's more dynamic. It just adds more to the story of that shot.
Yeah, and it doesn't like it's just B-roll shots though. Not like
right. It's just giving some context. It's not like necessarily adding that much to the story.
Yeah, not the overall story maybe. I mean, it just depends too on the style and like what you're making.
Right.
If you have a lot of movement anyway, you want to make it pretty consistent. But
yeah, and dude, I've been so interested. Like, I really want to do a documentary style video because it seems so fun. Like, just actually, there's so much that like goes into like making a story out of something. And when you don't have a story, it's like, what are you doing?
Well, yeah, that's why even if you see films that have like kind of shitty, like not shitty visuals, but just visuals that aren't like National Geographic or things that are like super high quality. If you have a good story and it's like a consistent set of themes and style. And it's like everything you see in the film, it always moves your story forward. It's like like we learned, it's like a train track, and anything that veers off that track is not going to get you where you need to go. So like,
Right.
So like as long as if you veer off a track, as long as you have something that pushes you back on your main track,
Yeah.
then your story will be consistent
And intact.
It'll be intact. And then people will be able to watch it and be there from beginning, middle to end.
And I think some of the best ones have that veer off track where you're like, I have no idea where this is going.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you have no idea where it's going and then it doesn't come back, then you're like, well, that was terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
But if it veers off track and then comes back, you're like, holy shit, what?
Yeah, and that's like with bigger films and like series for documentary, they do that a lot because especially in like the true crime series, like they'll totally lose you. And like they'll go off a track on a track that where they'll talk about, they'll pull back on a character, like their backstory all of a sudden.
Right.
And you're like, wait, what? Like, where are we going? And then, but what they'll do is like that backstory will lead into a scene.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a true crime that I've seen. And I don't even know what the definition of a true crime documentary is. What is that? That's like a crime that's true.
It's the only, or the one that,
like I'm trying to think, is it like when someone gets murdered and they do a documentary about how that person got murdered and who did it? Is that a true crime?
yeah, that's one. But I feel like just true crime documentary is like, it's looking at the judicial system, usually.
The judicial system. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Like, I think that's what I,
Maybe those are the ones that you've seen that are true crime.
yeah. I mean, and true crime could be like, people could be
Seems
like,
pretty
oh, well,
broad.
this is true crime, but somebody else may be like, I don't know. Like, that's the hard thing. You can't define.
But I mean, just the words itself, true crime, just make me think it's a crime that happened. So like a murder, someone
exactly.
stole something, maybe like the Enron thing that happened. I mean, that was a huge crime. And then they just do a documentary about that.
But it has to do with the judicial system in some form, you know, because there's
Yeah,
always
probably
some type of like.
But I mean, in like a murder, maybe not.
Well,
Like
I
if
feel
you're
like there's always a court trial.
Well, yeah. But like if you're doing a documentary about this guy who went around murdering people for like 5 years, and then they found him, and then they did due process on him correctly. I mean, the judicial system isn't going to be a focal point in that story.
Right. I was thinking like that it had something to do with it. Like, it's not the focal point, but it's like in all true crime series or documentaries or films, it's always like the judicial system it's whether it's a detective or whether it's,
Right.
you know, the judge or the court.
So
some involvement of the judicial system. That's like something that I feel like it's always involved. Like, because a crime has to do with breaking the law. And the law is whatever the judicial
it's
system.
held up by the courts and the judicial system.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. And like the true crime, the one that I'm thinking of is a movie called The Three Deaths of Maria. It's like Maria Escobedo or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a Netflix documentary. It's a film, but it basically just like goes into the murder of a woman's daughter in Mexico.
Okay.
And the guy gets acquitted and is let off on murder, even though he confessed. And it's about her journey to end violence against women in Mexico, because there's a lot of women that are just killed and then there's no justice brought.
So they just did it because it was like he was a man? Like it's just a corrupt system?
Well, he just did, it was his girlfriend, and he had like a rage moment. And I guess he like killed her, and then he like actually burned her body and tried to just get rid of it. It was like one of those cases where the guy was like super guilty. He was just like, I confess. Like, but then for some reason, the court system let him off. It didn't make any sense. And that's why, like, I think they just basically, like, she wants to find why so many people are let off. And a lot of it has to do with.
Sorry.
There's a little.
Jen just interrupted one of my mom's friends. She looked very, she's like, oh shit.
We're doing stuff very important here.
Yeah, extremely. We're talking about true crime documentaries.
They're
the backbone of America.
That we just watch.
That we watch. We've done nothing. We've done nothing in our lives.
It's okay.
You ever think about that? You ever think about like when people get to a point where they've actually made a difference?
I mean, you mean if somebody's successful in some way?
Yeah, I mean, in any way. Like parents provide, business owners, like provide jobs and services and amenities and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then like the really like wealthy and fortunate are able to give like a lot and make a big difference, you know?
Yeah, but I feel like it's cliche, but it's like all relative to, like, the success is all depends on who the person is too.
Right. And that's something that I struggle with so much because I often feel like I put too much pressure on my success. Mm-hmm. But I'm also like, well, that's not something that I want to give up. You know, like I have such a drive for success that I don't want to like water it down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you should. I think people should just always like take a step back in certain aspects and just like make sure that they're, you know, if there's too much pressure, like being able to recognize it.
Right.
That takes time. Like you often don't even know when you're putting too much pressure or when you're not doing enough. Like sometimes you don't know until it just takes time, I think.
Yeah, just trying to become aware of when you're like putting pressure on, like unnecessary pressure on yourself. Because like realistically, one thing that I do today isn't going to set me up for being successful in the future. Mm-hmm. However, a multitude of things that I do over the next 30 days single instances over the next 30 days may set me up for success in the future.
Right.
So it's hard to recognize when it's time to like be like, okay, this one isn't as necessary as maybe the one that's tomorrow or a different project.
Yeah. And it's also accepting too, like if something doesn't work out the way you want it, like just being like, okay, how can I at least make this, whatever's happening now, the best it can be, rather than dwelling on, oh, it could have been this. I have a hard time with that too, because that's why I don't make a ton of stuff.
Right.
Because I just dwell on like, oh, it could have been, but then I don't focus on like, well, what could this actually be then now? Like, just work with it.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
It's so frustrating. And we've gotten into a point in our lives and just in society in general where there's so much comparison that it deters a lot.
Yeah.
Like you talk about it every day. I talk about it every day. We look at these videos that are amazing. And we're like, I want to make something like that. And then we think of an idea and we start making it. And then we're like, well, this isn't that. When realistically, there's no way it could be because we haven't really made anything yet.
And it was just like what we started with, where we were like, we shot everything and then we're probably not going to use it.
Right.
Which, yeah, I mean, as long as we...
in that situation, I think it's fine.
Yeah, as long as we do something with it in some...
If we shoot it and we're like, well, we don't like this, and we reshoot it.
Yeah, that's...
And then use it. We learned from the beginning part. But if you make something and then just give up on it completely, then you're not learning anything really.
Yeah.
Except for maybe that you suck. I've learned that I suck often.
There's such a good quote that on Instagram
That you don't remember?
I just remember the general idea of it. But basically it was like this artist was like, people get to a certain point as an artist where they feel like they need to quit. Like they haven't done things enough to get to a point where they are actually settling into their voice or whatever, their art.
Right.
And he's like, the reason why there aren't as many artists that you see that are like doing work that people notice, or, you know, things that are really, really unique and you haven't seen before, is because people give up at that brink, that hill, like that top.
Yeah.
Or almost the top of the hill, where it's like they haven't done it enough and gotten out all their shitty work.
Yeah.
Because people, that's the thing you have to accept, is you're going to make shitty work. You're just going to make shitty work. And that, I've had the hardest time with that, because it's like when you make something that you think is good, you want the rest to be better or as good. And then when you make something worse after, it totally makes you think like, oh man, like I can't, I don't know if I even want to finish this. I'm going to move on to something. But if you just force yourself to continue to like finish things, you will get past those points where you know, quitting won't be in the option. It'll just be like, okay, well, I'm actually seeing good work now.
Yeah. And I don't think that, I mean, that's just about like discipline. And that's what I hear. That is the only thing that I hear about successful people. Like the real successful people that made it from like their own, they made it on their own, is that no matter what field they were in, no matter what they were doing, they were disciplined in it, like relentlessly, like getting up and making something every day or every week consistently. Or like an example that's popping to mind, probably just because I've been listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, is the fighter who just retired. I can't remember his name, but his dad died of COVID. And he's like the best MMA fighter that there is, Khabib. Yeah. And he's
what's his nationality?
An animal. He's Russian.
Oh.
I believe. I'm pretty sure he's Russian. I said that with such matter of fact that if it's not, no one's going to care because no one's listening. But it's so, he's so disciplined that there was no like question whether it was going to be successful. I mean, the dude wrestles bears. Apparently there's a video of him wrestling a bear.
Just a really hairy man.
Just a big, huge Russian dude that's hairy as hell.
Yeah, just from a distance, it kind of looks like a bear. You're like, oh man, Jesus.
Never really learned how to speak.
They throw food to it to get it, to tame it. I just called it an it. Sounds like this is like
that would be
a weird experiment on people.
Dude, that's where our society would go. There would be a giant guy, you know, that doesn't know how to speak and is super hairy. And people would jokingly be like, that's an it, or that's a bear. And then everyone would freak out.
You mean like people would just evolve to become just like...
No. Like people would, like in our culture today, everyone would get hurt by that. Like themselves. They would be like, what? You can't say that about him. It's like, It's a joke, dude. He's 7'5". He's 450 pounds. And his hair is 3 inches long all over his body. Yeah. And he doesn't know how to speak any language.
Yeah.
That's not a human. That is an animal.
Yeah,
But people would get hurt by that. I mean, that's kind of what they do with animals.
What? People get
People
hurt?
like give like we're getting into interesting waters, but like I believe that animals have rights, but like we've gotten to a point where we can't even joke about animals. in some sects. I mean, not the majority of people, but like Twitter.
Yeah, I honestly don't even have Twitter because I couldn't stand it.
I don't have the app downloaded. Every once in a while, I'll go and look on the browser because I don't want to have that immediate click to it.
Yeah.
I want to be like degrees of separation away from it because it's so fucking mind numbing and stupid. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Most of it, but there is some good stuff. But what I've found is that there's like two things on there. There's super woke, and then there's people like Tim Dillon, who's a comedian, and he just tweets the most horrific shit. And he's so funny, dude. It's hilarious because it's all comedic. Like when you read it, you're like, this is a joke. He jokes about, he jokes about his mom dying because he doesn't have a good relationship with his mom. He was like, I went and visited her in the insane asylum, and it was great. And I'm excited for her to die in a week, but it was great. And it's just like, he tweets the most like fucked up shit. And like, that's who he is. And he doesn't give a shit what anyone says about what he's saying because he understands that it's satirical. Like it's all a joke.
Yeah.
But those people aren't understanding that. So he has nothing to apologize about.
Yeah.
Which I think is like, when you get to that point, it's so liberating.
Oh, when you just don't care.
Yeah. But the thing that I use Twitter the most for is keeping up with Elon Musk and SpaceX.
Right. And literally our ex-president, Trump.
He's still our current president.
Well, yeah, that's true.
He's still got a couple of months or a month.
He used Twitter, so you have to some degree follow it because he's leading the country. So.
Yeah, and I actually listened to an interesting thing today about that on the Joe Rogan podcast with Moxie something. But they were talking about how, like, if Trump wasn't president, there's a high likelihood that his account would have gotten banned.
For what, though?
Just for outrageous shit. Like, they were saying that a lot of people, well, not they, Joe, was saying that, like I know him, Joe, my buddy Joe, was saying that there's a lot of people on the right who have gotten their accounts banned because of what they've said on Twitter. And Twitter's like a very left-leaning, like all the big tech companies are left-leaning. And I'm not really sure why, but I think it's just that appeals to the masses more than being conservative. When really, if we're thinking about it, most of those companies are extremely conservative.
Yeah, I feel like
the
money they're making, they have to be pretty.
They're about profit over everything. The whole business model of all those social medias is consistent growth, which is impossible. Like we're supposed to get to the point where they have all of the money. Like Facebook has all of the money. Like that's where it's got to go if you want to never lose money.
Yeah.
No one has money. Facebook has all of it. Facebook is our leader now, and they just give us things.
It's kind of scary. I mean, that's scary though. Like,
yeah, it is. Of course.
I don't know. Yeah, it's
the amount of power and control that these social medias have over how they curate content to persuade us is unfathomable.
Yeah, I mean, you could see that it's scary when you got a lot of the people in Congress or in the representatives of the country like questioning Mark Zuckerberg in that trial or in that court case against determining like I can't remember what it was called. But like no one knew. They were just a generation too old. And it's like the leaders of our country don't even know what is going on with something that's so running.
And it makes sense.
The country a lot. I mean, it's just interesting. It's
There's no way they could understand it.
Right. I mean, we don't even understand it completely, but
we don't understand it. Yeah. But like
it's like interesting. The policies that are made around that are made by people who don't understand it. It's just so typical. Like, isn't that so typical of all politics?
I mean, our whole society right now is broken. Pretty much in all ways. Like, if you think about our last election, we just had an election with two 70-something-year-old white males, and they were talking about race issues.
Yeah.
Like, when you think of the cliche racist, what do you think of? A 70-year-old white male.
Probably. So, yeah, that generation. Baby
Yeah,
boomers.
I mean, they don't, like, it's just the fact that we're in a situation where our two candidates were them, or those two people, is just unbelievable. Yeah. Like, we had, for the past two elections, we've had the worst candidates.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you have Trump even in the cards. Like, that was like a joke. Like, I cannot believe that.
It says a lot, though.
Yeah, I mean, it says a lot. I think the biggest reason.
And it was close. This last one was close, too.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason, okay, like, I mean, a lot of people are just tired. Like, I get that a lot of people are tired of and I'm not huge into politics. I don't.
Right.
But, like, all I can say is, like, when Trump was getting elected first, I just was like, I cannot believe that at least like that guy would be elected. Like, I couldn't believe it in terms of somebody coming in that could be different, who could, to an extent, like, not lead through the traditional, like, politician way where it's very, like, money oriented and, like, there's a lot of things that are hidden from the people. 'Cause it's like, it's ironic because the democracy is very controlled and dictated as the democracy that the government wants.
Yeah.
But I just think that Trump, unfortunately, was not the guy to come in and change things, because we did need somebody to, you know, change the way the country, you know, viewed, I guess, like, all aspects, like the economy and the way we function, especially with, like, how diverse we become. It's just unfortunate that we needed someone who was more of somebody to unite people and unify, because what it came down to is just bad timing and a coincidence. Is he was a leader in the prime of, like, divide. Like, right now we're in the most divided I've ever seen. And I'm sure a lot of people have seen in, like, since the 50s, 60s of, you know, a lot of the civil rights movement. And, you know, it's just like, I feel like if someone could look at, there are not a lot of, like, blatantly racist people today. There are, like, a lot of alt-right groups, but there are unfortunately systems, in my opinion, that are racist just the way they're set up. And it's just, if we could change some of that, or at least acknowledge it, you know, we could move forward. I just think we're almost, like, naive, and it's not everyone's fault. It's just like, there's got to be some type of leader that could open that up, because we're going to just become more divided if we don't understand that racism is not the blatant racism that you see. It's the institutions, unfortunately, that have fed into this, like, constant, like, class divide of, like, okay, this person won't get as much opportunity as the next person, just because of the thought in the back of your head of, oh, that type of person is probably not going to be as successful as this type. For instance, like, in my class, I took a race and ethnicity class at Chapman, and it like really opened up my perspective, because our professor brought up an example of, if you know, and this is just something that he brought up, like, if you say, like, you brought in, like, an African-American person came in versus a Caucasian person coming into a bank, the office representative or the representative at the front helping people with loans and stuff like that, just due to predisposition. And like it's not malicious, but it's just like there's that unfortunate like bias is like, oh well, that Caucasian guy or male or female, whatever, may have a better chance than the African American just because of this like
it's ingrained.
It's ingrained. And that's the racism I think that the BLM movement, all that's what they're fighting for, I think. Which I never knew.
Depends. Like, I think the movement and the organization are two separate entities.
Yeah, and like not just the BLM movement, but I'm just saying like the people of color like are really fighting for this racism that a lot of people are naive to, which I don't even know what people go through. Like I can't say anything, but I just wish that, I don't know if even having a president that would open things up like that, and like help change things with institutions over time. I just think like, it was just unfortunate that, we had someone like Trump, which it just made things divided. I think that's my opinion.
I think that there's something really interesting that happened in this last election. If you look at the reasons why the race was much closer than everyone expected, it's not because of white voters. The only ethnicity group to reduce their votes for Trump were white Americans.
Right.
Usually, and mostly older white Americans were the only ones that voted less for Trump. And a lot of the people that voted more for Trump were black males, Asians, Hispanics, because, I obviously don't know because I'm not in their shoes, but there's speculation about it, that he's actually done more than a lot of people expect for those groups. And I think the main thing that people are failing to understand is that, have you ever had your house like really messy?
Yeah.
And have you ever been like, oh, I got to clean up this whole place?
Yeah.
When you start thinking like that, you're far more likely to put it off. Rather than being like, okay, I got to start with my bathroom. I got to clean up my bathroom.
You mean looking at the whole picture rather than starting somewhere?
Right. I mean, like the idea that one politician could come in and flip the whole fucking thing on its head and change everything in 4 years with our bureaucracy is unreasonable.
Oh yeah. That's not, I don't expect that.
But I think that's like what a lot of people think. Yeah. Like they're like, we need someone like, that's what a lot of these liberals think that Biden's going to do, I feel like.
Yeah.
When there's no, like, we've seen it time and time again. Political officers or whatever, they're politicians promise that they're going to come in and do this. And then they get there and they do a fraction of what they intended to do.
Right.
I wish someone would come along and be like, honestly, I'm going to get this one thing done. And then the next person behind me can get this one thing done. And then the person behind them can get this one thing done. And it's just we're building on each other. And that's how this process has got to go. Well, rather than I am the person that's going to change the whole thing. Like it's not a single thing, like one group.
Right.
It's the whole group that's going to have to make this change. Like if we're on a soccer team, we've seen this before, and there are two people that are like, okay, we really got to do this, but the rest of the team isn't in line, it's not going to work.
Right.
It's just not, because we haven't communicated that this is all that we can do, or that this is the way that we want to play.
Yeah, but in that example, I think there probably has to be just like an overall goal that everyone is on board with.
Right.
You know? And that's hard to find because...
But we are in a time right now where we have more people agreed upon a single idea.
Well, yeah, just at least get out of, the pandemic in some, healthy way. We're not just having people dying all the time.
The pandemic came along at a really interesting time and like exploded. It made our like division much more visible.
Yeah, because it was always there.
Yeah.
But
like when you get hundreds of millions of people stuck at home doing nothing, sitting on Twitter all day, you really see division.
Yeah.
Which is super. Dude, I feel like in 10 or 15 years, if we're not all dead, there's going to be some really interesting documentaries.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like film will, all of that type of film, like documentary and those films that are like based off of true events, like, I don't know, they're all gonna, media will change in ways that we don't even know. Like it's gonna, I don't know. I almost think that some of the film is going to be like, a lot of it's going to be so similar in like what everyone experienced. But I think documentary will just become like something that other people will use. Like it'll become more important than what it is now. Like it'll be used as something to like learn from rather than just written history. It's like, do you think that maybe?
Well, I think we have documentaries like about World War II,
Yeah.
and other like things like that. However, I think, this is kind of a hard argument to make because like what I was going to say is that in World War II, there was a specific set of people who were sent out to fight. However, everyone experienced World War II in some way, like lots of people lost loved ones. Lots of people just missed their loved ones for a long time while they were out fighting. Our economy changed completely during World War II. There was so much that was sparked by World War II in terms of like cultural change and just like everybody feeling it. And what I was going to say is that with stuff that we're dealing with right now is there's going to be such a massive amount of people that get to look back like at a documentary about Twitter and be like, I was part of that.
And even if it's not documentary, I guess I meant to say more of like film and photo, like image
journalism.
capture, like image capture rather than,
which is like a form of journalism.
Yeah. Like, yeah, journalism in general, because
I mean, journalism has changed. It's less, it's not written anymore. And I think it's going to make an interesting change to more podcast style. Like it's going to be auditory.
Yeah, true.
Which is weird. I think we're making our rounds. And like, I feel like clothing is cyclical, like we go through.
There's trends that go back to
come
years
and go.
that.
Like radio was huge. Radio was the thing. And podcast is like kind of another form of radio, just a little less censored, a little more individualized.
Yeah.
But it's still just like the spoken word. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, oftentimes you see that with clothing and like style is like they bring back an old style, but there's a new twist to it. It's more individualized or it's less individualized or something like that, So it's all going to make, I think it's just going to keep going around and around like this.
Yeah. And like, I think writing though is super, even though it's not as prevalent now, like it may, like you said, those trends, like writing may become the next best way again. And so, it may be different a little bit, but I just think like when everything's so saturated with a certain type of format, like
People want something different.
yeah, it's just how it works. It's like there's an explosion right now of media and like
I think
image and like looking at stuff, but writing has totally like kind of had to take a back seat just because of the
because
innovation.
it's slow. That's the reason. It's slow. And I think the reason, or the only way that I see written word coming back around is artificial intelligence. And that would be Neuralink chip implementation to the point where we can read far faster than we can right now. Because reading just takes so long. Like if you want to read a book, that's like you're committing hours.
Yeah. But
if you want to listen to a podcast about that book topic, you might just listen to an hour podcast. And while you're listening to that, you can be driving. You can't read and drive at the same time.
Yeah. It's interesting too, though. Like, I don't know why I'm like with writing, because I love media. Well, I love like film and imagery, like, you know, visuals. I love it. But I've sort of found that because I used to hate like writing. Like I was so bad at writing. Like I just,
me too.
I was just so like, I could sort of write, but I always just would go off tangents. I would never have a clear point.
Who are these people that actually enjoy writing when they're kids?
Who?
Like who is that?
Well, I mean,
crazy people.
I mean, I think a lot of people are like, I know a lot of people that, you know, they look at writing, they'll look at like lyrics and stuff like that. I mean, written word is super powerful. And I think that's always going to be
extremely powerful.
It's going to be timeless. I mean, written word will always be there, in my opinion. It's never going to like go away. It's always going to, it's like where it comes out more, like it depends on what the context of the time is, you know, and like imagery too. I mean, I don't think imagery will ever go away either. I just think that like, it's interesting. It's like the more I get into, more visuals and stuff, I always get, it's just natural. You get drawn to what is different, I guess. So you're like, wait, what about writing? I've been super interested in like I've told you, like trying to write more with story and stuff. And I actually think a lot too is, Madison.
She writes a lot.
So
does Charlie.
And like, I never made myself really appreciate certain things, but like looking at how she values it and like how important it is to her. I've also seen like how important it is in general, because I mean, you could look at, you know, like writing, you know, books and like really famous pieces of written word that are just like, it's constructed in a way that is so complex. Like you can never you can't explain how people think like that. Like their brain just translates a language to create imagery rather than like directly creating imagery just by what you're looking at, you know? It's like they have to go through it about a different way of like translating
you have to like articulate it in a way where people can try and see your perspective.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
So hard.
That's why I've wanted to get better at it, but it's just like it takes so much time.
It's so hard for me. Communication like that is so hard because I'm so visual in my head.
Same.
That like with these projects like this.
Yeah, building all this.
I could see it before I even drew it. The whole thing.
You have like a written like the shelf has a tiny bit of dust on the corner. And see
it has way more than a tiny bit. We tried to clean it and it's still dusty. But
oh my God, it's really, really dusty again. Like that's fresh dust.
Well, we're in a garage. So every time a car drives in and we have a dirt driveway.
Yeah, it's going to kick up and just
this
settle.
whole place is just going to turn into the Dust Bowl. But Like when I try and like I'll visualize something like this, and then I'll try and tell someone my idea, and I have no idea how to do it. And I get angry. I get fucking mad because people don't understand what I'm trying to do. And I'm just like, why don't you understand this? And it's because I'm a bad communicator. And that's the reason. It's not because they lack the vision. In some cases it is. Some people just don't know how to visualize things. But in a lot of cases it's because I can see it so clearly in my own head that it doesn't seem like I need to articulate that much because I think that they can see it like I see it. And I think that comes from me and my dad's relationship because we could see things the same way. And like when we talked about a building or something that we were going to make or something like that, it wasn't hard. Like we could tell each other and then it was like we both visualized it. So transitioning that to like trying to articulate an idea to someone else that's not my dad, it's just not going to work the same way. I have to like figure out better words. And that's kind of what this podcast is about.
Well, yeah, I mean, communicating on a podcast too, it's hard to, there are going to be tangents, but it's cool when you see people do podcasts and they can almost like do it in a way where they tie things in. They're always thinking of, oh, well, this, talking about this right now will really help move on to another subject at the end or like tie things from the beginning and the end. It's like, it's kind of like a form of storytelling too, because it's, it's a wrap up of a certain time.
I love podcasts.
Yeah.
Like I listen to all sorts of podcasts, informational podcasts, comedy podcasts, more informational podcasts. I listen
really
to two types of podcasts.
I got really into them. I listen to them, but I stopped, I think, because I don't know. I now use like, it's weird, but when I drive, I try and just like, I don't really listen to music anymore.
Just trying to listen to nothing?
Kinda, because it's like a time where I'm just okay, I can just like not be thinking.
I'm hyper addicted to information. No, seriously, like really, really addicted.
I mean, it's not a bad thing.
No, it is. It clouds me, dude. Like I have to start scheduling out time. Like I have to schedule my day so structured so that I can actually get things done, because I end up like trying to do a million things while also trying to take in all of the information. And it's just not realistic. Like if I'm going to edit photos for like 3 hours, I can listen to like a comedy podcast.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really that
you're
attached.
Not listening, or you're not like trying to get information out of it. It's just more like things pop up here and there.
But like if I don't set a time where I'm like, okay, for the next 2.5 hours, I'm just going to edit photos. And with that, I can also listen to a comedy podcast. If I don't set that up, I'll start editing photos and try and listen to an informational podcast or try and watch YouTube videos about camera gear or shit like that. And I'll never get anything done.
Yeah, I know how that feels.
And I'm like, I wake up and I have to like listen to something that's going to give me something like immediately, or watch something that's going to teach me something, because I got into this state where I was trying to learn everything. And now I'm trapped by it. I like can't get out of it. I'm like, I need to learn something right now. Like, what am I learning? What am I learning? What am I learning? That's my head. What am I learning? What am I learning?
Do we need to have an intervention?
Yeah, dude. I want to throw my phone away. Every day, I want to just chuck my phone as far as I can. I need to downsize to a flip phone. I'm honestly
You're going to be moving to the Himalayas for a year. We won't see you.
I feel like that's
up in a little wrap up there, just meditating.
This is great. Just like shaking like a crazy person.
I need to check.
I have the information overload is so And then I end up not learning anything because I'm like, I have to take in everything all the time. And then I'll listen to like one video and then go to another podcast and then go to another video. And I don't give my brain any time to compress and analyze the information that I just listened to.
No,
and so I'm not learning anything.
No,
there's little things that I'm learning.
It's true because there is, I mean, I don't know everything about it, but like, isn't there a limit to what your brain can take in at a certain time?
Oh, I'm sure.
Information, like,
I mean, there's a limit to the amount of good decisions that you can make in a day. And that's why a lot of like the main, like this is science, and I'm not a scientist, so I don't know that, but it's science. But that's why like people like, the king of Apple, what was it? Steve Jobs, and
the king of Apple.
People like that, like wore the same thing every day. They had 25 pairs of these shorts and 25 of these shirts. They didn't have to make a decision what they were going to wear.
Oh, we've talked about this. Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah, it's just like there's a decision that I don't have to make every day. You know, and that gives me the room to make another decision that might be more important than what clothes I'm going to wear, because who gives a flying float?
That's what I've always had an issue with that, because I've been, when I'm one of the several people who has ADHD.
You have ADHD?
Yeah.
Diagnosed?
Yeah.
Really?
Because when I was a kid, I was way different. I was super hyper all over the place.
Is that why you're never on time?
That's honestly one of the reasons, I guarantee.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I can see it when we're like, if you're trying to leave my house, I can see your thought process and how it like bounces around, and then you never end up leaving.
Yeah, and everyone has it to an extent. Everyone has, I don't know, ADHD. I just think like people have it in various degrees. Like I have it more with, I can't focus super well. Mm-hmm. And when I do focus though, I can focus so hard. Like that's
hyper focus.
Yeah, hyper focus. When I edit, I can edit for.
You get into that flow state.
16 hours.
That flow state.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, or I'll.
16 hours?
I've done it before.
No way.
Yes.
Jesus, dude.
For school. Because we edited from, we took some breaks, but we had a project.
Did you get hungry?
Did you get hungry?
That's my problem, dude. When I start editing, I'll sit down for like 3 hours. This is as long as I can go without food. That says a lot. Dude, I'll sit down for 3 hours and I'm like, I'm fucking so hungry.
No, so people have to remind me to eat. I'm telling, like, I remember my freshman year, it was that first documentary class I took. Uh-huh. Remember I told you I stayed up 2 nights in a row?
Yeah.
That was the 16 hour. Like we stayed up because
also,
it was due.
Dude, sleep for me. I'm like, nah, fuck this shit. I'm sleeping.
Dude, and that's the thing for me. I don't sleep very much. Like I've gotten better. I've made myself, remember I used to listen to white noise all the time.
That's what I do pretty much. I just listen to The Office, which is essentially white noise after you listen to it 500 times. I think I have the record for the most. I've listened to The Office more than any person on the planet.
Yeah, there's somebody else I met. No, they didn't listen to The Office. They listened to some other show. I was like, oh, my friend.
It's highly possible that I've listened. It's not, I don't think, but I'm close.
Well, yeah.
I've been doing it since 7th grade. I think
listening at night?
Every night. There's probably been, since 7th grade, there's 365 days in a year. I don't even know how many years that is, but since 7th grade, I've probably missed 100 days where I haven't listened to it. That's,
God.
I should probably be admitted for that alone.
Man. Yeah, I stopped listening to white noise.
Do you just fall asleep to nothing? Mm-hmm. I want to try that again because I think I can now.
You could definitely. I have a hard time. I
sleep so well.
Yeah, I sleep better than I used to, but it takes me a while to sleep. And like, even last night, I was just like.
Can you not turn your brain off?
No, it's hard for me. Like, especially if because like, okay, since we filmed last night late, mm-hmm. I'm just super wired, it's just how it goes where you're just like you're into something, and you're just like, your brain is going like a million miles an hour. When I got home, I started talking to Connor.
Right.
And my brain was not shutting off. And like, that's why I just could not, we just started talking, and then I went to bed super late, and then I was still wired. That's how I go to bed usually. I have to just like, I always practice literally just laying there and listening to any sound.
Sounds.
Like it is so crazy.
It's meditative.
I've literally, 2 summers ago, I made myself, that's when I started in the car. I started to not listen to music and stuff, because I would literally take those times to just listen to what was going on around me. And every time my mind would pull out, I could see it. I could like see my mind it was like I was being drawn into a rabbit hole. I would pull myself out. And that's like the practice one summer I made myself do it every single time. I would catch it, practice, coming back. What do I hear? And I would just focus on auditory. Like there's other things you could focus on, like whatever you're seeing and all that. And it sounds weird, but it's just like, I think I needed to do it because it helped me now get into these projects a lot better, where now I'm like actually doing like a lot better work than I used to, where before I was always like, I'd make something and I was like, oh, it's good. I'd spend 1 million hours on it and then I'd be done for so long. But now I'm able to like,
it's more consistent.
Yeah. Like I'm doing the 2 projects for school, and I have another project on the side that I just finished the first draft of, it's been a long time coming, that nonprofit organization.
Oh, you finished it?
Yeah.
Your first draft?
Yeah.
Is it good?
It's okay.
Are you going to show me it?
I'll show you.
I mean, it's disrespectful as hell.
But you know what? I freaking hate showing people stuff when it's not done. I hate that. Unless it's someone reviewing it who is the client or whoever, or someone who
I can't
I'm working
review
on
your
it with.
work for you.
You're probably an exception,
kidding.
but I can never I can't show anyone really like
that makes
my
sense.
stuff. I
feel that too, because you're like, it's not done. I don't want you to like judge it based on what it is right now, because it's not done.
Yeah, and it
Like
makes
I
me
feel that.
I don't care more about the person. It's myself. I see them reacting, and I think I get harder on myself.
Oh yeah, no, same. That's how I am too. I hate watching people watch my shit.
Yeah, because I'm like it makes me want to.
And you see all those little things, because we've watched it 100 times over and over and over, and we hate it. We hate it already. Before we show it, we hate it, but we've convinced ourselves that we love it because we've seen it too many times. You watch anything too many times, you hate it.
Yeah.
Like you're done with it. You eat mac and cheese too many times, you hate it. You're done.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And that's my mac and cheese. I've been consuming this mac and cheese with my eyes all night. And I hate it. And I'm done with it. But I got to show someone it and see if they like it, because I've convinced myself that it's good. Yeah. And then I see the little burnt mac and cheese in the corner that no one notices. They just eat it without even seeing the burnt piece. You know?
Yeah.
But you see it every time. You're like, there's a burnt piece right there.
Well, that's how everyone is.
And then you see a little like weird reaction right then when that happens, and they didn't even notice it, but they maybe moved or something. And you're like, no, no, I have to go and fix that now.
That brings up this quick story about this. I talked to this guy that's from Albuquerque. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I told you about him, but he went to Chapman. He was like in the same boat as me.
Yeah.
But
a little bit, yeah.
He like, his name is Sam Price Waldman. Mm-hmm. And he's
is he still here in Albuquerque?
He's here right now.
He is?
But he works in LA.
Oh, okay.
But he works as a documentary cinematographer, which, oh man, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
But he also edits and stuff, but I like forced my way to get a hold of him. I like DM'd him. I talked to my professor. Uh-huh. Finally, he was like, I'll help you out with your project or talk with you, whatever. He's super nice, but he's just busy. And like, I talked to him and stuff, and he was just like, you don't see the shittiness of these top projects that you see come out. You don't see the shittiness of what people have filmed or what people have edited or done. The editing process will get rid of a lot of that, but also just over time creating a better idea of how to shoot something. Because if you, and anticipation is a huge part of that. Like if you, especially in those projects like documentary, you always have to anticipate. Like really good cinematographers, I learned, like if you're
Oh,
filming,
yeah.
they're always looking up. They're always looking up to see what's going to happen next. They're not, at times you want to be locked in, but a lot of good cinematographers, they know how to hold the camera. It's like playing
Especially
soccer.
documentary.
Like
if you're doing film, it's different. This is the scene. This is what's happening.
Right. You don't
if
have
you're
to
in a
think like
documentary, you're like, what is going on around me always?
Yeah, and it's hard. Oh. But anyway, I learned a lot from him because even in that short conversation, he's like, I was talking forever, and he's like, hey, I gotta go, man. Like, he's like, I got somewhere.
That.
I know,
that.
And that dude, I think I don't know, but I'm not gonna blame it all on ADHD because everyone kind of blames stuff on like focusing.
I think it is though.
But no, I'm telling you, I used to take what's it called, Ritalin.
Did you really?
Yeah, because I couldn't get work
done. You
done.
were a Ritalin kid?
I could have been an Adderall kid. A Ritalin.
Dude, that's...
Little Ritty.
No, but you'll be able to... I mean, and the weird thing is, I think that you work against it while you're trying to communicate, and that's why it takes you so long.
Yeah.
Because you're working so hard to stay focused that it takes you time to like get out what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of the times we'll be talking and I'm like, I know what you said, Dylan.
I know. And like, I'll look back at it and I'm like, Jesus, I'll watch like this. I'll watch it. I'll be like, oh, Jesus, I knew I was going to do that. Like, I'll just be like watching myself going. And I'm like, okay. Like
wrap it up.
I know. I actually went to a speech therapist as a kid too. Like I literally remember.
That's because you had fat cheeks though, right?
We would swim with it was in a swimming pool. We would practice literally like
blowing water out.
No, just like, I don't know how to explain it, but I would like, this therapist would like help me like get things out. Like I couldn't, it's like my brain was like, I knew what I wanted to say, but I could not say it. It was weird.
And you were in a pool?
Yeah, it was part of like doing simultaneous activity. Like I had to swim, but I also had to like speak.
Oh, it was just trying to distract your mind, probably.
I don't know. It was like supposed to, I think, show that I could, I don't know. It was about focusing though. Like,
yeah, I feel like you put too much focus on I feel like Lachlan has that. Like it takes Lachlan a long time to understand what he's trying to say. Like he'd be like, hey guys,
well, he's,
and
there's a big age difference.
He's also a kid. Yeah. But
I was like that too. And now I'm still through it. But I mean, at this point I've been like, well, that's just how I am. Like I'm not
right. And
but
it's not a problem.
Like, communication
in most situations.
Yeah. Communication wise, I have to be better in certain situations because, there is like time limits and stuff. And like,
I also think that you have a little bit of uncertainty in what you're saying in some situations.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what draws it on. Because you're like trying to affirm that you're like trying to understand all of the situation when really you're just trying to state this one thing. And you're like, let me make sure that they know that I'm not trying to be offensive in any sort of these different ways or anything. So you go around.
I make a round through the entire neighborhood.
Yeah, no, you do.
Back.
When really you should just
say it.
Have some confidence in what you're saying.
Yeah, and that is a really big trigger is when I start to lose that confidence.
Mm-hmm. You start babbling.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, all of it is just like figuring it out. You have to work on it.
Yeah, and I admit I have not really made myself work on it that much.
That's a hard thing to work on.
Yeah, like
I feel like this would be like the optimal situation for you to learn how to work on that. Like if you had a podcast where you sat down with people every week and we're just like, I'm going to talk to this person and try not to continue on forever. And it was interesting that I paused like that right there. That wasn't intentional, but it took me forever to say that.
Oh man. Yeah. That's how I work too. It'll take me forever.
Right.
Because I'm thinking of every single little thing. And it's not.
You might, like, just scheduling your day might help you a lot.
Yeah.
Because what I find is, like, I switch task way too much. And this might not be the same for you, but switch tasking ruins my brain. Like, it does. It makes me, a lot of things make me angry. It's something that you'll learn from listening to this podcast is I get angry by a lot of things. But switch tasking, like, puts me in, like, this numb state where I, like, can't think because I've tried to think of too many things. My brain's just like, I fucking give up, dude. Like, where are you going? And if I schedule my day, I'm like, okay, 2 hours, I'm going to work on editing photos. 2 hours, I'm going to email. 2 hours, I'm going to do this. An hour, I'm going to do this. And then I'm not switch tasking. I know exactly what I'm doing.
That's helped me a lot. Because I actually, that's a good point. Because I've actually really worked on that with myself. But I'll do more like, I'll write everything out that I need to do. Or even stuff in the near future.
And then just put one thing.
And then I'll put like priority. Like I need to do this, this, and this. And then I'll like force myself, instead of thinking too much, I just put on a timer, 10 minutes. Yeah. And then I'm locked in. I have to do something.
That works so well. I do it for an hour, dude. If I put a timer on for an hour, I'll be working and the timer will go off and I'll be like, holy shit.
Yeah. What? No, it helps so much. Because then you don't have any time to think. And then you just focus on whatever you're doing then. And then it makes it easier. Then 10 minutes is up. Oh, let me take a tiny break. Now I'm going to do 30 minutes. On this. And then you just time it out. Like I've gotten a lot better at it. I think when I like come home and stuff and I'm off of it, horrible. I just get it off and then I'm like.
And then your brain feels like shit. You feel cloudy. You want to give up. You want to you're like, I'm a fucking failure, dude. I quit.
You don't want to get out of bed. Just sit there. That's hard. I've become bad at that. Like I never used to be that bad, but sometimes now I'm just like, I can feel that now where I don't want to get out of bed. I'm just like, oh man.
I feel that too, but it's so different for me because everyone's like, I sat in bed until like 10, you know? And I'm like, I sat in bed, but me sitting in bed was to 7. And that was like, I was mad already that I sat in bed for that long. And I like literally the other day I woke up at like 6:30 and sat in bed until like 7 a.m. And I was like, what are you doing with your life? You fucking scum.
That's, dude, I don't know. The last time I was here, when I came back in the summer, I think, in the summer, I literally one day slept pretty late. I mean, I slept until like maybe 10, but I sat in bed until 11:45. I was like, what the hell? That's bad.
Well, do you get like that too? Where you're like, what am I doing with my life?
Yes.
I hate that. Because I'm like, I know that there's at least something that I could be doing right now.
Yeah. But like, sometimes it is important to not be doing something. That's why.
Right. But I like my thinking now is like, if I'm not doing anything, where are my brothers? Like, what can I can I hang out with my brothers?
Yeah.
You know, like I'd rather get up early, get all the shit that I have to get done, and then take a break, make dinner with my brothers, have dinner with my brothers, you know?
Yeah.
And like spend time with the family. And that's part of growing up, which is fucking weird. Like I have to think about who I'm spending my time with and how I'm allocating. Like in the mornings, my family's not up. Like Brendan sleeps until like 10. Lachlan sleeps till like 8. If I can get up at 5, work out, and do work for like 3 hours, then I've already gotten a lot of stuff that I needed to get done. And then if there's like a monkey wrench that gets thrown into the rest of my day, then I'm good, you know, because I've already gotten some stuff done. Yeah.
And then you don't get that stress because I get stressed pretty easily, but I just internalize it. I never show it really. I'm just like, and that's why I took that time to really just practice bringing it back to the moment. Cause those thoughts would always lead to stress. And so I was like,
dude, that is powerful. Like I've been doing, I say I've been doing, and I've done it twice over the past I think it's been 3 weeks now.
What?
Meditating.
Yeah.
I've been doing it, but 2 out of the last 48 days I did it. So
I mean, I don't even meditate though. I don't like take
but that is extremely meditative.
time out of the day. I mean, it is, but I literally made it so that I'm not like, cause I used to try and meditate and it just didn't work for me. Cause I would sit there and I'd be like, something would be on my mind and I'd be like, okay, I guess.
No, but what you're saying is like literally meditation, focusing on
the moment,
an object that's making a noise, focusing on your breathing, focusing on how your breath feels. That is.
Yeah. It's like keeping you present, but it's doing it every second of every day.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to schedule out a time. It's almost like, even if you're doing something like this, you can still be like so focused on what your voice, what you're saying, anything going on around, just always bring it back. Cause even now, like we're going to have thoughts come in and out, but it's like, I've learned that if you just practice that in every single thing you do, like you start to really do things better because you're just so focused on it.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think you'll ever get to the point where you don't have thoughts that just come into your head.
It's always a practice. That's why it's never perfect. Like
because it's like, that's something that's hard for me, especially on this podcast, is I want to listen to what you're saying and then kind of rebuttal it or add on to it or say you're fucking wrong.
Right.
But oftentimes I'll hear one thing that you say and I want to let you talk.
And then I'll talk for 4 minutes.
But everybody will do it. It happens with everybody. And I'll just constantly be thinking about what you said right at the beginning. And then I don't listen to anything else that you said. Then I'm like, you're fucking wrong about that,
I can see that sometimes when you listen to me, you're like
let me speak.
You're like trying, you're like these little, like you're trying to get your voice in there, but you're like, you can't.
Yeah.
I know. But yeah, for me, that's worked a lot. It's not always perfect, but it helps me not get stressed.
That's good.
As much.
Stress. I never really understood stress until more recently. Like I was like, I don't really know what stress is. I don't know what it feels like. I don't know how it, how it comes about. But stress for me just comes about like in anxiety. And then like I feel like my head gets really foggy and I like can't think. And then it leads into anger because I'm like legitimately when I can't think, I'm like I get so upset because I want to be like
in control a little bit
more.
more.
I'm like, what am I working on right now? I don't even know. I don't even understand what I'm doing. Like, have you ever just sat like trying to do something and you're like mindless and you're numb and you're just like, what is happening?
Yeah. To a point. Yeah. I know what that feels like.
I get like really like consumed by it to the point where I'll sit there and I'll be like, I don't even know what's happening with my brain. Like my brain legitimately just shuts off. And that happens, I think, when I don't work out, actually. Like I've it's funny. I quit soccer and now I'm working out more than I did when I was playing soccer.
No, it's true. I started to do that when I stopped playing years back.
Yeah.
But that's normal because because Madison plays tennis and I don't think they're going to really have a season.
Mm-hmm.
She works out more than she ever did. She hated working out before. And now she works out every single day for an hour.
Yeah. And it's just, I feel like when you have an obligation to do it, it feels less worth it.
Feels less worth it?
Yeah. For some reason,
Oh.
Or maybe you feel an obligation to something other than yourself. Maybe that's what it is.
Oh, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Like when I was playing soccer, I was like, man, I have to work out so that I can be good enough for my team or so I can be good enough to do this. Now I'm like, I have to work out so my mental health is okay.
Yeah. No, that will drive you to do it every day.
Every day. Like I've missed one day over the past 2 weeks And I chose that day to not do it because I was like, I need a rest day.
That's healthy.
Yeah.
It's like the healthiest thing you can do for.
Yeah, I'm healthy, dude. I'm a healthy guy. You know,
good.
when people think of health, they look at this guy that had butted brick walls when he was a kid.
You better not leave your greens around because
I'm chomping them, you know? They're crunchy. Most greens are crunchy. Except for lettuce, I guess. Oh, lettuce is crunchy. Some lettuce, if you have good lettuce, like a good ass Caesar salad, that's crunchy.
Speaking of lettuce, when we made burgers last night, or when you gave me the burger, that I put it on the plate and I was trying to sprinkle some lettuce. No one saw it, but it
just a big chunk.
overload. And I was like, just put it back, and no one saw it.
Yeah, so now there's just diseases on that lettuce.
Yeah, just a little E. coli, a little crunch,
E. coli,
little snap of E. coli. Just
it's like the Ricola song, but E. coli.
Isn't that commercial like a little man like blowing into a horn on the mountain? He's like, Ricola. Like, isn't it? Like a tiny little man?
I don't know, is it? I thought it was a normal sized guy with a big ass horn.
Dude, I thought in my mind it'd be funnier if it was a small man, and then I just made myself believe
100% it would be funnier. Like a huge
little man. He's
huge
holding
horn.
a Ricola. It's this big for him. He's all
he likes
Ricola.
Oh my
He's
god.
like hacking up a lung. He's like,
And then he's got this huge, and he's like falling, like holding the horn. He's like, Ricola.
he's drunk.
It falls on top of him.
He's like drunk off of the Ricola. He's just
The little tiny bit of alcohol that's in the Ricola. He's like, there's no alcohol in Ricola. But dude, if Ricola wants to sponsor this podcast, Dylan needs it. So
yeah. Wow.
give us a sponsor. Give me a sponsor. What are you doing?
What do you mean?
What are you doing, like, going forward?
With like work and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I've really like started to settle into what I want to do, I think.
Really?
I mean, for a long time, even recently, I was like, I don't know.
I still don't know.
And like, I probably won't totally be 100% like confident in exactly what I want to do. I'm still not, but I'm getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And I seriously loved every moment of helping that guy through my film. Like,
Yeah, that sounds incredible. We should talk about that a little bit.
That's my thing. Like I
If
told
you
my
want
parents that, oh yeah. Like I told my parents that I wanted to help people through film.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. I got to do it. Like I'm not trying to be like, I hate.
In kind of, don't stop thinking about it like that.
Okay.
In kind of a weird way, that came about. Like, it wasn't the plan.
Yeah. To help him.
Yeah.
It wasn't. And it just, that's why I'm like, damn, I think that's why I want to do documentary film.
So Dylan is doing a thesis for Chapman, and he decided that he was going to do this homeless man that he saw outside of his friend's house one time, or his house.
It was outside of my house. Yeah.
Outside of his house one time. And how did all this come about? Like, how did you decide that was what you were going to do, and what are you doing with it?
Well, a year ago, I saw this guy named Tony outside of my house, and he was picking up a piece of furniture. And
Did you guys leave a piece of furniture out, or your neighbor?
our neighbor, and in Orange, California, people leave old pieces of furniture.
For
Like,
homeless people to come pick up?
no, just for the garbage truck to come pick up. But some people do it for the homeless people to come by and get stuff. I don't know. But usually it's just like garbage. They throw it out on the lawn. And I saw him one day, and he put it on his back. Like, he put a big table on his back. And he was shirtless, and he was on a bike. And he just goes. And he's this old guy. I was like, how the hell is he carrying a table? And he just gets on his bike, and his skin is like leather. It's like brown. And so I asked him.
What ethnicity is he?
He's Latino. I think he's Mexican.
Oh, okay.
But he is Mexican, yeah. But he basically I asked him like, what do you do with this stuff? He says he repurposes the items, sells them in the antique stores in Orange. And I said, well, that's pretty interesting. And this was more than a year ago. And I kept seeing him over time, like when I was driving, just biking furniture back and forth through Orange. And, about like probably last school year, I had tried to make a short little film about him on my own. And I never brought the camera out. I would see him. So then when my thesis came up this semester in the summer, I just said, well, I'm going to go talk to him, see how things are. So I found him, and then I learned that he was actually a drug addict. And I said, well, that would be an interesting story to look at, like the homeless issue right now, because it's so big. Like, why don't I use his story? And so I was like, I think that would be a good thesis project. So I would go out with no camera. I would go out with him I'd find him. He has these little spots in Orange, and I would just drive up, park in another lot nearby at like a restaurant, and I'd walk over to, he kind of sleeps outside usually. And he sleeps, he has all this junk that he collects, like all these pieces of furniture. And I would find him and I'd talk with him, I'd just spend time with him, get to know him. Like I would literally like buy him food, and I would just like get to know who he is. Like I would like, while I was getting like maybe some story points and stuff, if it's going to work or not, I would also just like, I don't know, enjoy just like learning about another person's life. I just love learning about that stuff. And so eventually I started to bring out my camera, and I was like, we can make a film. Do you want me to make a film about your journey, kind of like as a homeless person selling these items? You're doing a lot of interesting work as a homeless person. And at that time, he's like, yeah, that sounds good. Like he agreed. But eventually, as I kept filming and stuff, he was like, I need help. And I was like,
he like reached out to you kind of?
Yeah, he was, well, not me, but he just kept telling me, he's like, I just need help. So then I was like, he had no phone, nothing. And he's been out on the street for like 30 years. And he was like, I was like, well, I can give you my phone if you want to call these people. He's like, yeah. So he called his social worker, and he also has a public defender, a lawyer, to help him with his several cases with drug incidents and stuff like that. And so they said, well, you have two options. You can either go to jail or you need to start the rehab process. And so he said, well, I'd rather start the rehab process because I've been wanting help. So then he called the places. I took him to a facility where they registered him for a rehab facility. Then he went into detox, and I learned about drug addiction more than I did homelessness, actually. So now my film is more about an addiction story, because I actually met his family. His parents are still alive, and he's 58.
Dang.
His parents are still married, and they still pray for him every day. Like, he visits them sometimes.
Have you interviewed them or no?
I interviewed his brother and his nephew, but his parents are so old that with COVID, I can't.
Oh, yeah.
Just right now, at least. But
forgot about the whole COVID crisis.
That's been a struggle too. But anyway, basically, like I filmed. I just had in my head, I'm like, well, I'm going to make this story about a homeless drug addict trying to get off drugs to reunite with his family. That's the story. And so basically, yeah, I while filming and stuff, I brought him to the detox center. He went in and he got out, and he never made his appointment for the rehab facility afterwards. Because you basically have to go into detox to get your system clean for 7 days. Mm-hmm. And then you have to go into a separate facility for 90 days, which is the actual rehab. See,
it's like the entrance rehab, huh?
Yeah, and it's a messed up system because detox centers are separate from rehab centers usually. I mean, I don't know everything about it, but at least the ones that are in California that I've seen, and they, like, if you think about it, if somebody gets out of detox, like they're gonna...
Here, we need to pause for 1 second.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Right, we're back. Sorry, my laptop was gonna die. Dylan has to leave soon, so we're gonna finish up the story and then call it a day. Dylan just disrespectfully burped towards all of you. Where were you? The rehab center and then being separate from the detox center?
Yeah. That the reason why he didn't go is because he got out of the detox center and had 2 days in between going to the rehab center and getting out of detox. And those 2 days, how do you, if he's going to go back to where he lives, how do you expect somebody to not go use again? So I just on the second go around, I kept finding him. I kept, going out to film, get anything I could for the story. He kept saying I want to go in again. And so then we called again. I brought him to the detox center again. And I just told the detox center, is there any way he can get a rehab facility? Go straight in? He shouldn't come back to Orange. And they said, well, there's no guarantee. So eventually I called the detox center on the last day he was there, and he was like, yeah, I actually got into a program. So the next day, the rehab facility picked him up, and they took him over, and he's there right now. He's supposed to be there for 90 days.
Well, how long has he been there now?
Probably about a week.
Wow. So right before you left.
Yeah, it was right before. And I was lucky because I was like, well, I guess
if he doesn't get in now, I'll have to wait until I get back to be able to do anything, right? That's what you were thinking?
Yeah, and his health is bad. He was,
right.
I would find him and he said his chest was hurting a couple times. Mm-hmm. And, that's if your chest is hurting and you're that old.
Well, how old is he? He's 50.
58, but with that lifestyle,
he looks like he's 80.
Yeah, he's definitely got some issues with blood pressure, all that. And I think that his health was just bad. And getting into a program, I've talked to a lot of people, and it's kind of sad because every one of them said his home is the streets. And unfortunately, he's going to be back here. And I was like, that's sad. Because it's not only do a lot of the people around him who care for him, they don't really believe, even though he's at rehab, that he's actually going to do it. But they're also just they've accepted over time that his home is not with them. It's really just
the street.
And that's all he knows. And that I was like, dang.
He's lived there for 30 years now, you said?
On the street. That's a long time.
That's
how
do you... he's 58. That's more than half of his life.
Yeah. So I don't know. There were one of two ways I would end the film. But I learned that when making a film, if you have an end goal, no matter what story you're telling, even if you don't know the end goal for sure, if you start to come up with something that you're reaching towards, mm-hmm. it helps you form what you need to film. Because if you're aimlessly kind of filming, which I was doing for a while, and that's okay, but at some point you have to come up with
in the beginning stage, it's kind of I just got to film and see what's going on here.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. But if you just are it's an edit, I'll figure it out. That's rare. You have to have, in a documentary, you have to have you have to tell a story. Mm-hmm. That's the bottom line, or else you're just going to have a bunch of footage. So you have to structure it, because in the edit, you can't make something happen if you didn't make it when you filmed.
Right.
So I learned that a lot. And that was my log line, is the simple bare bones. I always kept going back. How can I tell the story of a homeless drug addict tries to get off drugs to reunite with his family? It has the characters, it has the want of the character, the conflict, all in one.
That's what you want. Have you read Save the Cat? It's a book about screenplay writing. And he talks exactly about that. What you need for a log line.
It's hard. It took me
yeah.
forever. And even, see how simple that is?
Yeah.
Like, see how simple it sounds? Took me hours to get
Oh,
to
yeah.
Because I never thought, I was like, he needs to get off drugs because he doesn't want to go to jail. That sounds interesting too. But that wasn't what it was.
Right.
It was, he wants to reunite with his family, which is what I had to find out.
You might actually really like Save the Cat.
Yeah, that would be really good.
It's really, I haven't finished it, but it's pretty interesting. I started listening to it after I took that Colin and Smear course.
Oh yeah.
About storytelling, and I'm still have no idea what I'm doing. It's probably because I haven't made anything. You know,
Well,
that's why.
I was
haven't done it.
forced to. And see, that's another thing. I forced myself. Even I would force myself to go out at 10 at night. I would finish all my homework. I'd be
Is
like,
he
I have to go
around
out.
a lot of people, like a lot of other homeless people?
No,
No, he's by himself.
that's why it's an interesting story. Is Orange gets rid of all the homeless. Like they push them in Santa Ana usually, and that sounds bad.
Just over the line. Just scoot over the line. Right there. You know, there you go.
But really, like, they had a lot of homeless people there in like Anaheim and Orange, and they have the Angel Stadium. Mm-hmm. They've got Chapman, so they enforce rules more strict. Makes sense, you know. I mean, when you do have a lot of homeless population, it brings a lot of other stuff. Like, it's hard to have a school and then have like tons of that going on, but there's not a good solution because they shove them. They like basically. The city of Orange doesn't have a lot of homeless shelters, but Santa Ana, the city next door, does. And it's because they're a lower income city. They don't have a university or anything. So
That makes sense.
yeah, so it's sad because a lot of these people.
So how does he live there?
How does he live there? Mm-hmm. Sleeps outside. That's why it's so crazy.
So all the other homeless people, so you're saying there's homeless shelters in Santa Ana, but there are none in Orange?
There are some in Orange, but not as many. And also, if you are homeless in Orange, it's harder to find places that you can stay unless you have connections in the community. Because what he does is there's a Latino community. There are a lot of like immigrants from Mexico and, people that are living there that are, they're trying to make a living and like actually either become a citizen or they already are and they have recently become a citizen. And, he's really become pretty good with that community because he'll go to the soup kitchen, he'll deliver food to houses on his bike. He'll fix furniture and he'll borrow tools from all these shops in those communities. They all know him. And
Wow.
I think it's time too. He's been there for so long.
So have you gotten all of that?
I mean, I didn't really focus too much on. I focused on like a lot of my footage revolves around him kind of on his own, which I don't know if I'm regretting it or not, but it was hard to get footage with other people just because they didn't want to be filmed.
Right.
But I did get.
That's such a weird area, especially when it's just you.
Yeah,
Like if
and
you had a
it's
crew,
hard.
you'd probably feel more okay with like trying to film more people. But if you get into a situation where someone really doesn't want to be filmed and they get angry or something.
I mean, yeah, and even though I actually didn't even want a crew with me because I like made it so that I was alone and I only had my gear and I just knew that I wouldn't get the scenes that I wanted if I had another person with me, even just one.
Right.
Because I knew, like, I was going
He has
out.
to confide in you, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, he was telling me crazy stuff. Just like, I don't know. It's just crazy. Like, I just never would have gotten it
When is that project due?
in April.
In April? So
I'm
you've
actually
got
going to be
time.
editing now.
You're starting editing.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able, like, if you feel like you need to get something else, you'll have time?
I have a lot of stuff I actually have to get.
Really?
I still have to get. That's why, like, that's
Have you
part
written
of the,
out how you want your story to go from start to finish?
Yeah. And basically what I want is Act 1, we get into like introduction of, him, his
Who he is.
environment. But I'm actually starting on a scene, I think, of a call he calls his mom on my phone and he talks to her, and you get everything in one scene kind of.
Mm-hmm.
You get the characters, which is the story of him kind of reuniting with his mom in a way.
Right.
That's the family aspect of him reuniting. That's his want. And then we don't get the conflict yet. You get introduction of like his environment. He's sitting behind a car calling. He's shirtless. He's just this is in orange and no one sees this stuff. You're like, wait, where is this? And it starts on that. And then we get introduced to his brother. He comes and visits him sometimes. But at the end of Act 1, we get introduced to his drug addiction, which is the conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like...
That's cool. You're starting it out with like, oh, it's a homeless guy.
Yeah, and then we get his conflict, which is why is he homeless?
Which makes sense for most,
reason.
but like putting it in that frame where you can't really tell.
Yeah, and I don't want to... You don't want to put too much time where it's like... You don't want to stretch it out where you don't know too long because it's a short film.
Right. How long is it going to be?
I hope not more than 15 minutes. I want it to actually be like 10 minutes or less. Like I want it to be really, really short because...
Really going for that Vice shit, huh?
I don't know. I mean, I just want it to be like something where it's like...
Easily consumable.
Yeah, where you see it and you're like, oh man, like...
I sent you a video today, actually. It's 19 minutes.
Is it a film?
Yeah, it's by Danny Gervais.
Oh, dude, he's so good.
Yeah, and I kind of play a role in this, but not really like a tiny, tiny role. Because I donated. That's the only role that I played.
You're like, because I donated.
But it made me cry. I was crying this morning. It's so good.
He's a really good... We keep going back to it. His
It's
story.
just like when you watch the video, it's just the kindness in the video and like what he's done for someone that has nothing. It's just fucking crazy. And he frames it really well at the beginning and then shows like, it's really good.
I'll watch it. His videos are great.
Yeah. His stuff is good.
It's really, really good.
Yeah, I like him as a
You
person
should watch
too.
Mark Bone too.
Yeah,
you
I
like
want
him
to.
a lot. He's actually, I really like him. I like Danny Gervais more, but Mark Bone's just like specific documentary.
Yeah.
Danny Gervais is more like
Filmmaker.
yeah. But like Mark Bone's a little similar where like you could watch something and you're like, oh man, like it's just he's so good with just like creating even just a YouTube video. You're just like, man, it makes sense.
Right.
It's how and like all those YouTubers are really freaking good.
All right. Well, that's been an hour and 40 minutes.
That was good.
That was good. We got into some good topics. I felt good with these mics.
Yeah.
Did it feel like that to you
I
too?
felt more confident. Like
It feels like you're like, oh, people can actually hear me now, you know? Like they're going to be able to discern.
can you hear me?
They're going to be able to discern the difference between like our voices and hopefully it'll sound better. We'll see. Hopefully this isn't for nothing because if this was all terrible, oh, bro, that was a good podcast.
I don't think it's going to be terrible. I just think we're way better than we used to be.
Yeah. And
We used to sit in your room and it was really bad. Cause like
we actually have things to talk about now.
Yeah. Like
We've done a little bit more.
Yeah, true. And like also I would get too like, I wouldn't think about the podcast. I would just be like, you'd say something and I'd like joke off of it or something and it would kind of dwindle into nothing.
Right.
And I'd be like, okay, on this one, I was like, well,
now we actually
should talk. Like,
yeah, we find tangents that we want to talk about.
And they help. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually really want to talk to more people on this podcast, like outside of my friend group, people that I don't know.
Yeah.
Like there's a photographer that's in Albuquerque that he's younger. He's a car photographer and he's really good. I like his stuff a lot, but he just seems like an interesting guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to do it. Yeah. I mean, with COVID, it's hard to maybe do stuff like this, but you could also,
I'm not too worried about it.
Well, I know it's just the comfort of other people too. It's like,
right. I mean, obviously I have to reach out to them and ask them if they want to come on and then if they're going to come on, they're obviously going to be okay with it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people are like, a lot of people aren't, as deathly afraid now.
And there is a rapid test place in Albuquerque that you get your results in 15 minutes. And I'm pretty sure that if you have insurance, it's free.
Yeah, it makes sense. Oh, that was a part of the reason. I could not find a rapid place.
My mom knows all the places. So, okay. But yeah, this was a good podcast. I had a lot of fun. Yeah, it was at the beginning, dude, I was like, man, I haven't done this in a long time. And I was like, shit, this is going to be bad. And then we just got into it. We just started fighting verbally.
We kind of ruffled our feathers and just.
Yeah. All right. Well, you got to go have Christmas before family. Christmas.
Yeah. I don't know why. I think, no,
it's important.
Because it's the warmest day and our grandma is Shishi.
Oh, it's the warmest day. That's why you're doing
That's why we're, because we can't go inside.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
I didn't even think about that.
Especially because of her, too.
Yeah, my family has not been doing that.
What?
Like, I go and hang out with my grandparents.
It's
just different for everybody. Everybody assumes their own risks in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, we just have...
And I wear a mask the whole time and stuff, obviously. But it's just like, I guess if you're eating and stuff.
Yeah, that's why we're outside, too, is because we'll be eating.
Mm-hmm. So, it's different. But hopefully we get through this shit quick. I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm ready.
I am, too.
And the way that these states have been handling this is ludicrous.
Yeah, it's getting worse, too.
Oh, yeah.
It's like...
They're devolving. They're like, oh, power. And then they see it slipping away and they try and grab more of it. I swear to God, that's what it is.
Yeah. And I don't know. Hopefully the vaccine can help, but I think the biggest thing is having someone step in and just say, you know what? We're going to wear masks. We're going to have these policies in place. And the states, if you, almost a little bit giving people the option to be like, okay, well, it's your own risk, but just putting some simple policies in place rather than this back and forth on.
Also policies that don't ruin the economy completely. We can downsize a little bit. Yeah. We'll be all right. If we're working at 25% capacity at a restaurant inside, we'll be all right. We can deal with that. But the fact that we have to do 25% capacity outside, we're not allowed to go past 9 p.m., which makes no fucking sense. It's been dark for 4 hours. What's the difference?
I don't get the time.
It doesn't make any fucking sense.
I think it's because they think that people drink at night and
but the bars aren't open. The bars aren't open. It doesn't make any sense. They're ludicrous, dude. They're out of their own fucking minds.
I don't know.
It drives me bonkers. And they don't, if they're going to make these statements like this, they have to tell us why.
No.
And what scientific evidence there is that's backing it up. They're just saying, we're going to fix this. And we have to, all lives over everything, we have to save but you're ruining people's lives. Thousands.
Yeah, it's so freaking hard too. Because
millions of people's lives.
Their own.
California is fucked right now. New Mexico is fucked right now. Yeah. The small businesses employ 90% of the people in America. Small businesses. And those are the people, we're just force feeding ourselves into these giant corporations. Big chains are going to live. Big chain restaurants are going to live.
I don't know why.
Amazon is exploding. They're going to do better than ever during this. And that's
another argument because I know it's sad. It's sad because the small business is the structure and the foundation.
Those are the only ones that are really feeling this. All the other ones have figured out ways because they have the capital. Yeah, small businesses, they can't do it.
Yeah, and that's why there's a big argument against these. Honestly, I don't like Jeff Bezos at all. I respect his.
Did you
journey,
know they hired 1,200 employees a day this past year?
No. So he's at least giving people jobs.
I mean, he gives millions of people jobs.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's hard to say that he's not doing anything, but we are making a way where it's just not the same. You know, like having all of the power in Amazon is different than being like it's good in some ways, but it's also bad in others. Like people have jobs, yes, but a lot of the jobs are shitty. And people are less likely to go and do their own thing, which is really what pushes the economy forward is innovation.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You know,
it's becoming like this weird, like monopoly, like.
Yeah. And it's just being force fed. The monopoly is being force fed by this shutdown. Yeah. And I mean, if people aren't understanding that, then I don't know how to help them.
Support local business right now, though. It really is.
It's extremely important. Go to Vernon's Speakeasy. Go.
Yeah.
Or the Cafe 6855. All right. We got to go. You got to go. Right. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe if you are here. I'm gonna have another one. I'm gonna reach out to some people and we'll have another one.
It's a nice.
Plus, me and Dylan. You know, Dylan's always gonna come back on the podcast. So.
Well, yeah. I'll make my guest appearance. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe if I get another mic, it would be nice if we could reach out to that guy and have a 3.
Which guy?
The Sam guy.
Oh yeah, he's super nice.
That would be sick.
It's just time. Like we'd have to find it. Right.
I mean, all of that's timing, but maybe over the summer or something, that would be kind of sick.
Yeah, and he's had so much experience. He's really, really interesting to talk to.
Yeah, that sounds cool. All right.
All right.
Peace out. Thank you.
Later.
Bye.